Hey guys, I gotta be honest with you, I'm not really sure how long this video is gonna last, but I need to get on here. It's an LA Rams central episode because I'm gonna be talking about the Rams. I'm gonna be ranting a little bit. I'm doing something I probably shouldn't do, and I'm watching some of these other YouTube sports shows that have been popping up ever since. I'm not saying I started the trend, but the whole reason I did this is because I didn't see a lot of stuff like this on YouTube, and I certainly didn't see a lot of people with an intelligent point of view chiming in. And I tell you, I wasn't really that disappointed because there's never really much of an expectation. I don't use profanity on the show because while it is YouTube and it is a free venue, it is my choice to not use profanity for two simple reasons. Number one, there are kids that watch, hopefully. Number two, it's not necessary. Now, if I were filming me watching a Ram game, you'd probably get a 5-minute clip of me watching the Ram game, and then I'd have to edit everything else out because of the amount of frustration that sometimes flies from my mouth, especially when they first moved to LA. That being said, I'm going to give them their credit since I'm talking about them as far as, who it was. They're called the Bottom Line View. And my overall opinion on the matter, just from the one episode that I watched, really not worth your time. And I'll tell you why it's not worth your time. Let me just start with saying there's a Cowboy fan, a Patriot fan, and a Seahawk fan. I don't know who the other guy is a fan of. I only saw 3 of them. But those are your 3 fans, right? The go-to 6 sticking together. Maybe we're a threat. Maybe having something like LA Rams Central out there is a little bit of a threat, and those people feel like they have to keep their monopoly on the conversation and make it all about them. So, of course, the Rams made a lot of headlines, right? So what did they talk about? They did a Rams 2016 preview. Okay, that's what they were covering today. They go in and they start talking about the Rams. So let me just tell you the records that were on the side that they predicted. They predicted a 13-3 record, that was the Cowboy fan. A 10-6 record, that was the Seahawk fan. The one Patriot fan, and whoever the other fan of the other team was, I didn't watch the entire thing. I couldn't watch it anymore after the Seahawk fan. Predicted 11-5. Now, let's start with that. They predicted 11-5. You know who else predicted 11-5? The NFL Network. ESPN. They've predicted 11-5. Isn't that fitting that they're all right there? And then everyone's like, well, let me play devil's advocate for the one Cowboy fan that had him picked to go 13-3 and finish second in the division, second in the conference behind Philadelphia, which, 2 things on that. That is a possibility that we could be a 2 seed if we don't win that game against Philly earlier in the year. And I'm guessing, although they wouldn't let him say it because he was going to bring that up later when they were covering the Eagles, why the Rams were the 2 seed. Because of the loss to Philly. He didn't say that, but I'm garnering to guess that's where he was going with that. Which, that's going to be a pick-em game. Who knows? But he was the only one, and I never thought I'd say this about a Cowboy fan, that was competent. And I shouldn't say that. You know why I'm not surprised to say that about a Cowboy fan? Because they've been relevant for a long time. Unlike the Seahawks, who are a fake, propped-up fan base, or a fake propped-up football team by the media. The Seahawks for years, and I've been watching football since 1984, the Seahawks have always kind of been a nice little afterthought. Oh, they had a good year. Oh, 87, they made it to the playoffs. 88, Chuck Knox. They're a good football team, but they were kind of on the cusp of being completely irrelevant. And then in the 90s, they completely became irrelevant, and no one cared, even when Ricky Waters went to Seattle, right? It wasn't until somebody on ESPN and the NFL Network got a hard-on for him and decided to start rooting for him and propping him up and talking about how loud the stadium is and how tough it is to play there. And I've gone over the statistics ad nauseum, okay? The Rams in St. Louis, when they were in St. Louis their last year, okay, had more false starts in the Trans World Dome, or whatever the heck they called it at the time, than the Seahawks did at Qwest Field. Fact. It's not even debatable. It's true. So, what are we talking about here? You want me to believe that it's the loudest outdoor stadium in football next to Arrowhead Stadium, yet your only metrics to garner that is false starts, which was comparable to one of the worst home fields in all of professional football. Yeah, I'm not buying it. So, this Seattle Seahawk to be fair to him, he was probably high on dope. I mean, after all, it is legal in Washington. And the only thing I can think of that could possibly excuse the behavior of this individual is if he was high on dope and not thinking clearly. He said things like, I'll just say, trying to keep my composure. Todd Gurley, he doesn't know if he's an elite back. He's been inconsistent in his 3 years in the NFL. Inconsistent? Excuse me. Didn't you rush for over 1,000 yards your rookie year? Yeah, I did. Had a really good year. I was voted Rookie of the Year that year, actually, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Didn't you suck the next year in LA? Yeah, there was a lot of things that went on. We had moved from St. Louis clear across the country, had an archaic offense. The offensive line had some injury problems, and the guys that were playing weren't really being that well coached. But, we plugged through it. I still rushed for over 800 yards and, was basically the only highlight on my offensive football team. And then you had a pretty positive year last year. You were pretty amazing. I mean, yeah, they gave me Rookie of the Year, which I was pretty proud of. And, yeah, I mean, I had over 1,300 yards rushing, over 2,000 yards from scrimmage, and several touchdowns. So couple that with what I did with the 10-touchdown, 1,300-yard rushing season my rookie year. It's been a pretty good start to a career. I think that's inconsistent. Seriously, that's the mindset. It blows my mind. You're talking to me about the running game and Todd Gurley's inconsistencies, which, as clearly demonstrated, was far from inconsistent. Especially in today's football, 800 yards today is like rushing for 1,100 yards in the 80s, okay? And that was with a bad football team, all right? Then you take into consideration that this whack job from Seattle, his leading rusher last year, okay, in 2017, Mike Davis, 240 yards. It's an NFL record for futility for a leading rusher in the Super Bowl era. And you're going to talk to me about an inconsistent running game or an inconsistent quarterback, or you're not really sure. Todd Gurley is already better than Marshawn Lynch's entire NFL career without the beast mode moments where he decided to show up every once in a while like he did against New Orleans. I remind people that beast mode didn't exist in the Ram game the week before the wild card game against New Orleans. Beast mode got shut down by a football team that didn't even make the postseason. So let's pump the brakes a little bit on Seattle's great running history. You want to talk about Seattle's great running history? Ricky Waters, who was a washed-up, used-up, no-good son of a gun after he left San Francisco, right? First went to Philly and then went there. Prior to him, you had Derek Fenner. Kurt Warner was your only good running back, and God even knows who was running the rock prior to 1983. And you're going to talk to me about inconsistent running back. Dude knows, I know. There are fecal matter in toilet bowls all over this country that know more football than this individual from Seattle. And I'll leave it at that. Okay? It is mind-blowing that these people even thought that this was a good idea to put on the screen. They should have pumped the brakes a little bit, talked to the guy and go, come on, bro, let's be realistic. Do you know how many times Eric's done that with me? I made mistakes. I don't have 6,000 viewers like these people do. I've made mistakes. Okay? My assumptions on New England was personal. And I let the personal get in the way, and I stopped doing that crap. Right? When we did our postseason prediction, what did I say New England was going to do? Go to the Super Bowl. Right? There's a point in time when you have to go, okay, my bias here has to take a back seat, and I got to look at this critically, or I'm not going to be taken seriously. He has the Rams going 10-6. Ndamukong Suh, Marcus Peters, Akeem Talib, Braden Cooks, another full year under the system of Sean McVay. Right? Todd Gurley with the contract. Doesn't have to worry about it. Then they still have Todd Gurley locked in. Right? They have an offensive line. They address some of their depth in the draft. And you're going to turn around and tell me that this team is worse than last year's football team with a schedule that's significantly softer than it was a year ago. Put all that aside. Let's move on. The other thing that is absolutely driving me crazy, and I made this comment. By the way, I commented on their show. Okay? Obviously did not subscribe. I would like to not lose brain cells. It's bad enough I have to watch some of the pregame on the NFL Network and some of these other places. The last thing in the world I want to do is watch a bunch of over-opinionated, fans of hot teams. I'd love to see this show when New England goes in the toilet. And I love how bitter this Seahawk fan is, right? I mean, he says the Rams are still going to win the division. Well, of course, because you're going to pick Seattle, your legion of poof that exists right now, no running game, and a quarterback. Let's talk about the quarterback position for just a minute, because they decided to tell me and all of us in the Ramily that they're not really sold on Jared Goff yet. You're sold on Russell Wilson. You're sold on Russell Wilson. The year you won the Super Bowl, you had a historic defense. The year you went to the Super Bowl against New England, you had your historic defense still intact and a historic running attack for all intents and purposes, right? He was averaging like 5 yards a carry that year. He was ridiculous on short yardage situations. And the one time they put the game in your hand, you didn't deliver. And what has he done since Marshawn Lynch left the Seahawks organization? Won a wild card game, got his butt kicked, didn't make the playoffs. I'm sorry. Let's just, this is how easy it is. Ready? I'm going to show you something. Okay? Here we go. Watch. Russell Wilson's career stats.
Here are the top search results.
Okay. It's as easy as that. That's how easy technology is. Let's look at Russell Wilson's career statistics. Okay? He has never had a 70% completion percentage. Keep that in mind. Write that down in your head. Okay? He has thrown, career-wise, he has thrown 161 touchdowns and 56 interceptions. 2 times in his career, he has thrown for more than 26 touchdowns. That's it. Just 2. Just 2. Okay? Career completion percentage is 64%. Right? Actually, I want to bring that back up. Russell Wilson's career stats.
Here's what I found on
Okay,
the web.
here we go. So, his first year, okay, that's when he had the Legion of Boom defense in 2000. No, I'm sorry, his first year. That's when he had the Legion of Boom defense. He threw for 3,100 yards, and his next year, he threw the exact same amount of touchdowns and went to 9 interceptions. Okay? Now, watch this. Jared Goff's career stats.
Here are some results from the web.
This is just in 2 years. Okay? Just in 2 years. His completion percentage last year has been comparable to every year Russell Wilson's completion percentage. Keep in mind that he never had an offensive line like what's his name had last year. Okay, until this year, 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Career, he's thrown 33 touchdowns, only 14 interceptions. In 2 years, he's thrown under 10 interceptions both times. The growth in attempts, completion percentage, pass average, yards. You can attribute this to the coach all you want. But I'm telling you, as a football coach, you still have to go out there on the field and call the play. And I love how no one equivalates the coaching with Russell Wilson. He came in with an already proven coach, right? He came in with the guru, right? Which I'm not even going to get into my feelings on Pete Carroll for this show because that's another rant for another time, right? Google search it. It's not hard. Russell Wilson's career, not impressive. It's good. It's, in some cases, even really good. But so was Jared Goff last year. And when you're going to sit there and tell me that this guy hangs the moon, that he's a championship caliber quarterback, that he's elite, and you're going to base it off of one season, which is essentially what these guys do. Yeah, you look at Jared Goff's season, and you can pound the drum all day long and rip the guy and lay the guy out because you're right. But then he has a good year, and your response isn't, hey, maybe we should pump the brakes on how we evaluate backs or quarterbacks. No, your solution is, I need to see more from Jared Goff because, 2 years is just not enough. 1 year is just not enough. No, jackwagon, it's 2 years. And yes, you're correct. It's not enough. But it wasn't enough. It was plenty of games for you. 7 games was plenty of games for you to throw his career in the toilet. Right? But then he has 16 games and a postseason of incredible football play, and you're going to turn around and tell me, this is the irony, right, that you need to see more from him. You didn't need to see more from him in 7 games, but you need to see more from him after 17. Does that make sense to anyone out there? Oh, and let me tell you what he said about the Falcons. I can't call the Rams a good football team. They lost the wild card game to the Falcons. I mean, Steve Sarkisian, for crying out loud, how can we possibly say that that's a good deal, right? Obviously, if the Falcons can dominate the Rams like that, they're not a very good football team. Didn't you lose to the Falcons this year at home to Steve Sarkisian and the Falcons? You're not allowed to talk about that because I'm a part of the Elite Six, and the Seahawks are great, and the Falcons suck, and you lost to the Falcons, and shut up. You could sit there and talk out of both sides of your derriere, and believe me, I'm yet to find a face on this individual when it comes to football. All right? You're going to tell me that our loss to the Falcons makes us not a real threat, but you're going to tell me the very same team that beats you at home for the playoffs. Let's keep that in mind. The reason Seattle had to win and Atlanta had to lose is because Seattle lost to Atlanta earlier in the year. Okay? Again, this is how easy this is. Right? Let's just open to the Seahawks. Look at that. I opened right up to him. Look at this. Look at this. Atlanta 34-31 on November 20th. You lost to Atlanta. We would have lost 26-20 to Atlanta had we caught the football in the end zone when it was thrown right in our hands. I believe that was Tyler Higbee. Not to mention that Brockers was injured for the entire second half. Not to mention that we had guys getting in the way of Pharaoh Cooper and giving Atlanta great field position. I'm not blaming Pharaoh Cooper for that fumble. I refuse to. That ball hit a player and rolled off on him. He had no chance to get it. He was trying to wait for a fair catch. Then you couple the fact, right, that Atlanta had the postseason experience, and there was a little bit of nerves going on right there in LA, which I'm not going to, discredit and sit there and say that that wasn't a learning experience for the organization. But you're going to sit there and tell me that our loss to Atlanta makes us, if our loss to Atlanta makes us irrelevant, then can you finally admit that last year your football team has officially fallen from the grace of God and into the hands of despair? No, because see, the media won't let that happen. And people like him, these Seahawk fans that think their football team is God and everyone else below them is beneath them and, oh, we may be down for a year or two, but we'll be back. Yeah? Let me tell you, as a Ram fan who's got a hell of a lot more experience rooting for a winning organization than you do, Kevel, that was his name, let me tell you, your fall from grace, it's pretty hard. And it takes a little bit of time to rebuild, like it did with us after 2003. Or I should say 2004, like it did for us after 1989. It's not an easy process. It takes time. So when you sit there and ponder this experience, then we'll come back and talk about it in about 5 to 10 years when you rebuild it. Of course, people like Kevel, let's be perfectly honest, right? He's going to drop the Seahawks and he'll probably become a Ram fan the minute this football team wins the Super Bowl, because that's what these people do. Right? They have loyalty to nothing because they just want to be relevant all the time so they can hear their own voice. These Patriot fans that never existed, ever. I'm a Patriot fan, or was. I was born in Maine. I was around those people. I moved to Arizona. I've been here since '84. Okay, I could count on one hand the amount of Patriot fans I met until they won the Super Bowl. Because that's what these people are. They're a bunch of bandwagon, ball-hopping douche canoes. And they know it. They won't admit it. I've been a fan the whole time. What are you talking about? I had a Seahawk fan that didn't know who Steve Largent was. I rest my case. I don't have to say anything else after that. You don't know who the greatest receiver of all time in your organization's history is, but you're a fan. Okay? I wasn't around for Ollie Matson, but I know they traded 9 players to get him. I wasn't around for Deacon Jones, but I know he was great. I was too young to really appreciate Jack Youngblood, but I know he exists. Because when you're interested in something and you're genuinely a fan of it, you dive into it a little bit. You read about it and went, oh, this thing is about the Rams. I'm going to read it. Or, oh, this thing on Twitter is about the Rams. I'm going to read it. You know what? I'm curious. Google Ram history. And then it comes up. There's no excuse not to know your football team. I'm not saying know as much as me. My wife will attest to this. Okay? It's almost embarrassing. She would argue it is embarrassing with how much I know about football, especially the Rams. I have no qualms, and I don't expect people to be anything like me, but have base round knowledge. Know the elite people on your football team's history. Then he proceeds to say that the Rams aren't as good as the Saints. Not as good as the Saints? Which I did make this comment. We beat the Saints in LA last year when they were on their hot winning streak and hadn't lost a game since like week 2. We were the team that ended that. Can you please explain to me why we're not as good as the Saints? Our offensive line is old. I get it. It's a concern. But if they stay healthy, they're the most experienced, one of the most experienced in the NFC. Our skill position players are as better, if not better, than the Saints' defensive players. Our defense dominated New Orleans in that game. And that was without Ndamukong Suh, without Marcus Peters, without Akeem Talib, without Corey Littleton playing linebacker. God, I hope that kid plays middle linebacker this year. I'm buying a jersey if he does. If he ends up getting the starting linebacker spot, probably one of the first 2 episodes of the new season's shows, you know, the new regular season shows when we're covering the regular season, you're going to see a Corey Littleton jersey. I freaking love the guy. Blocked how many kicks last year? Dude was a stud. But we'll see if he gets it, because it's going to be a pretty competitive position to win. Give me a break. Give me a break. 10-6. 11-5 is an insult. You're going to sit here and tell me that the Rams are an 11-5 football team? They're exactly the same as they were a year ago with the additions they made in a softer schedule. The Cardinals didn't get better this offseason. The Seahawks didn't get better this offseason. Right? That's an extra win right there against Seattle. By default, that's 12-4. Unless you're assuming we're going to lose one game to Arizona and we're going to get swept by San Francisco. Unless that's your assumption, or I should say, well, that in the case of 10-6, that would be about the only way you could shape that up, right? That's got to happen, coupled with the way we played outside the division last year. Like, these people blow me away, and they're all over the internet. They're all over the internet. That's the whole reason I started this show, was to get away from people like that on the network and give people online something else to watch. Now, I don't know. These guys may have been around longer than me. I have only found them recently. All right? They have 6.4 thousand subscribers, which blows my mind, which tells me one of 2 things. Either they have like 5,000 accounts each, and they just, or, they're better at getting the word out. I'm not going to say the show is better quality-wise, what they do and the different graphics that they have. Yeah, I'll give them credit. Look, it's just a dude talking to you. That was the whole purpose of the show. I think it's why it works. It's just 2 guys. Wait till Eric comes down here. Eric's eventually, hopefully, going to be moving to Arizona. At that point, we're going to put the thing up there, filming us on the couch, just talking football like 2 dudes. That's the extent of our show. Any graphics that get added may get added later. But we're not a graphic-based organization. What we are is we are people that talk football that know what they're talking about, because God knows not enough of that is out there. I mean, tell me if you guys are just pissed off at hearing this. 11-5 or 10-6. One dude had them going 13-3, which, by the way, is the same record I picked. Okay? I got them losing to the Bears because we never beat the Bears. I'm sorry. I got them losing to Minnesota because we never beat Minnesota. I'm sorry. And then I got them splitting with San Fran. That's it. Those are our losses this year. That's all I see. And there may be one that creeps up on us that we didn't anticipate, where the Rams just played like crap and phoned it in. So 12-4 to me isn't an insult. It's a disappointment, but it's not an insult, because 12-4 definitely won't get you home field advantage. Maybe they lose to Philadelphia and go 12-4. And now they have to go to Philly for the championship game. Who knows? But 11-5, the same record. That's exactly what the network said. And 10-6, and it just it even bothered me when Eric did it last year. We beat the Saints, and people still said the Saints were a better football team. I don't understand the logic. If we beat you with a less superior football team, and we did more to get better this year than you did, then by default, we should be a better football team. And don't tell me sophomore jinx don't exist. It's exactly what happened to Todd Gurley. Before Captain Nitwit decided to sit there and go, he's inconsistent. He's inconsistent? Really? You want to go there? Inconsistent? 3 years and he's inconsistent. Whether or not somebody out there wants to call Jared Goff elite or not, I get. I've told you guys, I'm not pounding the drum that I was right until this year is over. I need to see it one more time. But I'm also never going to sit there and tell you that a guy's career is garbage after 7 games. I'm only going to give it the time that is needed to determine how good they really are. And 3 years is the benchmark that it's been since Sid Gilman was playing quarterback for the Chicago Bears in the 40s. If it's good enough then, it's good enough now. So as far as I'm concerned, okay, you want to sit there and say that you need to see more from Jared Goff after a season like he had last year, but you didn't need to see more from Jared Goff after 7 games his rookie year. You're not only a lying, perpetrating piece of garbage, but you're an uneducated, ignorant, no football knowledge pile of human feces and fecal matter. I'm sorry if you're eating breakfast. You have no depth of knowledge whatsoever. I would be better off getting my sports information from a bowl of half-eaten soup. From a stranger. I don't even know what that analogy means, to be honest with you. The analogy doesn't matter. You get the point. Oh, man. You know it's bad when I'm waking up at, what is it here, 8 o'clock in the morning, just ranting on a Sunday morning. I think you guys can tell I'm pretty pumped for football. Guys, I really appreciate you listening to me. If you like the rant, comment below, pass us, share it, get people to subscribe. I can't be outdone by people this ignorant. I'm not somebody that normally pumps the program. You're going to subscribe, but guys, you've got to subscribe. Please get subscribers. Help me build this thing so we can actually get common sense, intelligent information when it comes to football out there to the rest of the people. Because this just can't continue. LT, continue to love the fact that you promote me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Keep doing the great work. I think your subscribers have surpassed me. I love the way you do your program. And guys, if you haven't checked LT out, check it out. April, I adore you. You're the best. And, I really appreciate it. And I think it's Maria Rodriguez. Forgive me if I got that wrong. One of my original subscribers. I appreciate the very kind comments on the Man of Monologue show. I'm going to try to do those a little bit more, maybe once a week. I'll make sure I label that they're not sports related. If you see Man of Monologue, guys, and you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. It's about life. It's not about football. But I think they're hopefully helpful, and I'm trying to pass a positive message along to people and get them hope in times when they maybe are in despair, or help them, guide them. It's not a preaching session. I don't sit there and preach religion or my faith. I talk about it and how it's helped me, but by no means is that pushing it upon you. And I don't even think I talked about it that much in the first Man of Monologue. So it's about coming together. It's about unifying us as a country. So I really enjoyed doing that, and I hope you guys did too. Anyway, guys, appreciate it. Subscribe, comment, pass this along, share it, please. We got to get the word out there. And go Rams!